What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Funnel Vision Show. I'm your host, Mikkel Dia, and today we have a guest that is going to help us really dive into the creator economy. At the end of the day, founder-led content, basically creating content, is a really good way to really grow any business. I've done it for Funnelytics. It's how I started, and we have an expert here with us. So I'm very excited to dive into that. Phil Ranta. Phil, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're going to have a really fun conversation about this because it's a hot topic. Founder-led content, founder-led businesses is what's all the rage these days. So for those who don't know, let's start with your not so humble bragging rights. Tell the audience what you've been able to do for yourself, what you've been able to do for clients. Just in other words, why should they listen to this episode?
I'm Midwestern, so it's really hard to do the not so humble, but I'll attempt. Been in the creator economy for about 20 years before it was even a thing. So long that I was actually focused on MySpace video. And I read a report that I wrote in 2005 saying that Google video is going to crush YouTube, so don't focus on YouTube. And I would say I give myself a 50-50 on that.
Yeah, it did crush YouTube because it bought it.
It did. I thought that Rever was going to be the winner because they were doing a revenue split way back then on ads. Go figure. But on the creative side, for the first 7 years of my career, clocked hundreds of millions of views on different platforms with content that I produced. But in 2012, I became one of the earliest employees at Fullscreen, which was one of the early multi-channel networks, became the biggest influencer network in the world. I was the head of network over there, had a big splashy 9-figure exit to a joint venture between Peter Chern and AT&T. Then I went over to be the COO at Studio 71, where we also exited that to ProSieben, managed The Rock, Rhett and Link, Lily Singh, Roman Atwood, a lot of the big creators of that generation. Became the head of gaming creators at Facebook. That was during the streamer wars, so it was the largest the Facebook gaming network ever was under my tenure. I think we were like 17% of the market at our peak. It has since shrunk because they stopped focusing on gamers. Then I became an investor, advisor, everything else in the space. I thought I was going to solopreneur and like early retire for my career, but ended up getting roped into this awesome company called Fixated, where I'm currently the COO, and we're focused on building businesses around creators. So generally those 5 million follower and up creators, we're working with them to make sure that they're getting proper investment and infrastructure and everything else to build the next generation of companies.
So you've gone through a lot in that short amount of time in what you just described. So walk me through, for those who don't fully understand how the creator economy works. Let's go to the 101, right? How does the creator economy actually work?
Absolutely, yeah. And I could talk about this for the next 2 hours, so I'll be very high level here. But generally, when people become creators, they do it for fun, right? They're doing it like, hey, I want to show off to my fans. Very few people are like, I'm going to be Mr. Beast, upload, right? People will generally have a video go viral or more viral than their other videos. If you look back on a lot of the big creators, that's generally the inflection point, is they just have a video that hits. And then they go, oh my gosh, this is something. On most platforms, YouTube being primary of them, they have a ads monetization program where you will make a couple dollars per 1,000 views. And when you're invited into that, then people's business brains either flip or don't flip, and they say, I'm going to become a creator or not. Once you become even bigger after you're making that money and starting to budget that out and upgrade your content, brands will start to reach out to you, or you will reach out to brands, and you will get what they call brand deals, which they'll say, I will pay you $100, $1,000, $1 million to shout out my brand, and here are the specs and blah, blah, blah. At that point, you start building out a team around you, which is generally starts with a manager, agent, or lawyer who will help you get commercial opportunities or make sure you don't get screwed over by commercial opportunities. And then you might hire an editor or producer or anything else. But remember, this is still the same person who was just uploading a couple of years ago just to impress their friends, right? So it's not like they take genius pills and become business owners, right? A lot of them are scared, don't know what they're doing, will have people in their ear who aren't always the greatest people. So a lot of the creator economy, the reason why they say it's the Wild West is because of that. Most companies are built with the intention to be companies. Most creators build their careers with the intention to get a little clout amongst their friends.
So it's true, right? Even if you look at Mr. Beast or anybody who's really started, they start with just uploading some videos and they're consistent and they just want to create videos and they want to create content. But it's also starting to create this mindset that, oh, anybody can just be a creator and anybody can just create videos and be Mr. Beast or become a Kardashian or basically make a whole lot of money, because you see it everywhere. You see it on TikTok, you see it on, now people are just creating content because they want that, that appeal. It's not so much just because I want to create videos anymore. What do you say to that? Like, how have you seen the world of the creator economy evolve?
Yeah, I mean, I would point back to the 90s where this all began, which is when the real world showed you that you don't have to necessarily have a skill in order to be famous. You can just, you can even point back to the 1920s socialites, right? Where it's like they were on the New York Times in the page 6 sections, and it was like, look at this fabulous flapper who everybody wants to be, right? But reality is when it became really accessible. Then people started mind shifting, saying, oh my God, to be famous, I don't have to be a great singer or guitar player or juggler or whatever else or comedian. I could just be famous for being famous. Then when social media came along, that gave them they didn't even have to go to a casting call anymore. They didn't need a gatekeeper at MTV to say, all right, you're going to be on the next cast of The Real World. It could be literally anybody. And I think that a lot of the creator economy was built off of that inclination where people want to be impactful to the world. They want attention. They want positive attention. They want a pathway to say, I'm here, world, and this is who I am, and please validate me for who I am. Social media just fed that in the right way. And I remember being on AOL Instant Messenger in the 90s, and when you would sign on and there'd be 10 people who messaged you just based on your away message that were waiting for you, those dopamine hits hit hard. Now creators can log on and see that they got 100 million impressions on their content while they were signed off. And that dopamine hits hard. It is a drug and people are getting addicted to it.
Yeah, it's true, man. When you see that, especially a video go viral or you see all these impressions, all these likes, you're like, oh my goodness. And then you realize a lot of that was luck, right? Like that first one, you're like, man, and then you try to replicate and you're like, it's not working. Why aren't all my videos reaching this stuff? If you think about the creator economy and we were to think about playbook, so you broke down the process of how do you become a creator, how do you make money around that, but let's talk about a playbook, right? Because if somebody does sit there and say, I want to become a creator, how do I do it? How do I basically because is it just as simple as just start uploading videos that you want to start uploading? Do I just go like Mr. Beast and start saying Logan Paul a million times on camera until I die? And people how do I start wanting to do this in a sense?
That's totally fair. I'll do a very quick plug, which is go follow my LinkedIn or on my LinkedIn newsletter, Grow 1%, because that helps people who are serious about this. But I think what people need to remember is that social media is entertainment at the end of the day. And to do it properly and to grow properly, you have to become a great entertainer. And that's where Mr. Beast was failing so much when he was doing it when he was 12 that he had to learn over 10 years of failure, is he is a filmmaker. It just happens to be his films are these sensational reality show competition things. But at the end of the day, you need to know how to shoot a video, how to edit a video, how to keep the plot moving, how to introduce it, how to do metadata that sells it so that people actually click in. There's a lot of stuff to know to do it right. And a lot of people who are, let's say, 13-year-olds who upload their first video on YouTube and then their parents reach out to me and they're like, hey, my son wants to be a YouTuber so bad. He's uploaded 10 videos and they all got 3 views. What are they doing wrong? And I go on there, I'm like, they haven't studied. And you need to study this stuff as if you want to be a professional comedian or singer or baseball star or business leader. There's a lot to know. And yes, you can get lucky, right? There's a lot of people who did not study this stuff and just got lucky or just had natural skills. But if you want to ensure that you're going to do it, you got to keep getting better and better. And that's by learning from the greats and testing and iterating and thinking of it from goal setting and what you really want to achieve. And it's not easy. It's as I say, the ultimate get rich slow scheme to become a social media star.
There you go. The ultimate get rich slow scheme. That's a pretty good way to put it. And the funny thing is it's like any business, right? Everything takes time. Everything takes much longer than you think it will for you to go through that process. So tell me about you and why you got so deep into this. What drew you into this world so much that you have spent the better part of, I guess, almost 20 years now doing this?
Yeah, it's really one word: spite. So I was a professional comedian. I did it in college. When I came out to Los Angeles at first, I came out because I was going to be the next big star on Saturday Night Live. I was doing open mics for 5 people who were also comedians who were totally disinterested. I was going to auditions and they all hated me. They didn't know where to place me. I wasn't quite good enough looking to be the frat guy, but I wasn't quite nerdy enough to be the nerdy guy. Like, I didn't fit anywhere. So what I started realizing at that time, this was like 2004, Dane Cook was blowing up on MySpace Video. And he was like, became a star because his Comedy Central Presents half hour started getting cut downs and uploaded all over MySpace. And I'm like, screw this. I'm going to start doing that. Started uploading on social media, shot a pilot with, it was semi-scripted. It was right after season 1 of Reno 911 when like semi-scripted stuff was going big. And I was doing a lot of improv at the time. I shot a pilot called Party Animals. It actually was starring Tim Robinson, who's now 2-time Emmy winner, Tim Robinson. But at that time, he was a 23-year-old kid. And it sold to superdeluxe.com. And at that time, I had a love of the internet. I had uploaded on it for a long time. And now I have a .com who has paid me money to do it. And it launched my professional career. And I was like, why do I still want to go into TV or be on SNL when I could have an idea for a sketch in the morning, go get my DVX 100 and go shoot that sketch, go edit it on Final Cut Pro on my computer and have it up by the afternoon. And I just got addicted to it.
And do you still create a lot of content?
Not as much. Mostly it's on LinkedIn now because I'm old. I'm an old guy. So like I'm not doing sketch comedy anymore. But yeah, LinkedIn is starting to embrace video a lot more. So like this morning on my LinkedIn, I put up a video. But yeah, I think that if I ever were to sell that one big company and become an eccentric billionaire, I wouldn't do what Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg are doing and try to double down on business. I'd be doing comedy again. That's my first love.
Yeah. Do you still do it, by the way? Just side note, do you still go on open mics?
I don't know. It's been a while. I still write jokes down in my writer's journal. I just don't perform them because I think if you have the comedian mentality, you never stop that. So either I'm going to embarrass my wife at parties by saying every joke that comes to mind out loud, or I could write it down in my little notebook. So I'll take the latter.
Yeah. You don't want to get into that world. That's not worth it. Talk to me about Fixated. So what exactly is it and how does it work?
Yeah, totally. When you're a creator of a certain size, you generally have a manager or agent. And some of them, I would say most of them, don't have a manager or agent that's going to get them to where they want to go next. It's just about rolling the next deal because that's what they're incentivized to do. If I'm at CAA, I'm not incentivized to build longevity in a career. I'm incentivized to do a deal and take my percentage and get my bonus. For creators who do want to start exploring what's next, where they're like, I am not just a YouTuber, I am the next Jimmy Fallon, right? They're going to need infrastructure and heft in order to give them the leeway and trajectory to get them to those goals. And oftentimes that takes analytics expertise, business expertise, sometimes funds, sometimes an editor to ramp up what they're doing on that side, or more distribution on more platforms. We feel there was an incredible hole in the market for that. So we're telling that story to a lot of people who we like to say like the 5 million follower and up crowd, and saying, look, if you do want to get to that next level, you don't feel like it's being served, we're here. And right now we've got about 25 clients on that side, and we're building businesses around all of them based on what their level is there. But also we're doing a lot of creator services. So oftentimes somebody who's big will say, I don't want you to take a percentage of my company or build in that direction. I just need you to help me on my Snapchat. Great. We've got an incredible team of experts on that side that will do it on a commission or based on a retainer. And that's grown to a couple hundred creators already. And we've only been doing it for about 4 months, and we're planning to get to about 1,000 by the end of the year.
Wow. So basically you just bolt on various services to help creators expand once they've reached that 5 million.
Yeah, what we're really good at is building companies around creators that are profitable, right? So if we can see a part of somebody's business where you're like, dude, you're leaving money on the table. And what I can do is take whatever, 40%, but get you that extra 60% you're leaving on the table. And you don't even have to think about us. We're just going to have our magical elves do it. Then it's a hell of a value for everybody involved.
Oh, yeah, totally. It's just extra money for all. I'm curious then, if we take a step back and let's talk through, I want to talk about a couple things, the different platforms. And then I also want to talk about the 0 to a million to 5 million, because very few people get to 5 million followers, right? Like very few. Let's talk about the platforms that you love right now that you look at and say, where should somebody kind of start? And also, what is that playbook for you to get to that first million?
Yeah, totally. So the platforms I'm loving right now are Snapchat. I love Snapchat. Discovery is starting to get really great, and the monetization is great, and there's just a lot of benefits to really building hard on there. I will always love YouTube. Like, YouTube has my heart because I see that as home base. They don't make a lot of big, crazy moves. They don't try to pivot their platform in big, crazy ways. They're just this beautiful, stable thing where everybody knows the score and they're becoming a default. And if you're a live streamer, especially in the gaming space, as you can probably tell from my background, I'm a bit of a gamer. Twitch is doing a great job. And I think Kick, also their primary competitor, is doing a great job. On and off, I like meta platforms, and they were my previous employer. But much like Twitter, they're just so thrashy. It's really hard to build a business there, but it is a valuable place to build monetization if they're in a good mood that year. And the mood changes a lot, right? To get from 0 to a million, it's actually not that different. I like to compare it to the music industry, right? Like, in the music industry, it's a very hits driven business. The social media industry is a very hits driven business. Now, how do you increase your chance for that? You can learn to be masterful on the guitar, or you can play the kazoo, or you can hum the world's greatest. It's like there's an X factor, right? You just need to find something that's resonant and become masterful at doing that, and really be self-reflective in terms of what that means. And then you need to put in the reps. Songwriters don't often write one song and then that's their hit song and then they blow up. It happens, but it's rare. Usually they have to really work it. They have to go to the county fairs and they have to upgrade to get the record label, and then they have to blah, 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 and blah, 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 and work their way through the steps. Same way on social media. You have to figure out what you want to be and what you do, and then you've got to start putting it out there, and you have to learn from what you put out there, and you have to pivot and execute and continue going on schedule and not give up and be tenacious. And as long as you're navigating the industry properly and listening to the analytics and feedback, you can get to a million. I still am a firm believer that if somebody gives me 40 hours a week for 5 years, I can get anyone to a million followers. They just have to, it's like being an elite athlete. You just have to wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to work it. I'm going to become the best tennis player in the world. How am I going to do it? By getting out on that court and I'm going to hit balls.
Yeah. And even if it's about that discipline at the end of the day, because many days you're going to wake up and you're like, I don't feel like doing a video today, but you don't have a choice, right? If you really want to hit that number, that's part of the game. It's just going through that process. And again, I think people think that any of these things are different, or the path to success is shorter or easier, but it really isn't. Whether you want to start a business, whether you want to be a creator, whether you want to be an athlete, whether you want to be a comedian, whether you want to be the CEO of a bank, it doesn't matter. Like, it's the same amount of grit and determination and discipline. Just what you do on a regular basis is different. You're creating videos versus you're doing squats every single day. So in that sense, but even if you look at comedians, some of them have been going at it for decades before they hit it big, right? As very well how difficult it is to really hit it big as a comedian.
Oh, yeah. And I know lots of people who have been doing it for 30 years now who never hit. I know people in their 50s that I came up with who I was looking up to when I was in my 20s and they were in their 30s. And I'm like, they've got it. They're going to make it. And now they're in their 50s and they're still sharing an apartment with people. They never got married. And it's like, you have to love it. And it's the same way with social media. It's not guaranteed success. Same way with being in the startup world. It's not guaranteed success. It's not a meritocracy, but you have to love it and you have to put in the reps. And if you want it, you have to keep getting at it. And I always hate it when people are like, if you just keep putting yourself out there, you're going to hit. It's math and magic, right? You can give yourself the best opportunity, but you still need to hit, right? And it's the same way in the startup world.
Absolutely. It's the same thing in the startup world. Your business, you may give it sometimes it's just a matter of one thing. Like you may create an ad and you create a whole bunch of ads. None of them really work. And then there's that one ad that all of a sudden makes it. And now it all of a sudden blows up. And because of that, there's this snowball effect that it creates. And now they're talking about you on CNN or whatever it is because of that one ad, even though the last 5 years, product's been the same, everything's been the same. It's just that one thing hit.
Yeah, who's to say that Dollar Shave Club ad that really launched that company? What if the algorithm just decided that it was too weird? Or like they accidentally flagged something as being unsafe? That company might not exist if it wasn't for one algorithm shift. It's all math and magic.
It is funny when you put it that way. Because you and I both go on LinkedIn a lot, and we're going to wrap up here. What are your thoughts on LinkedIn? So LinkedIn's obviously not a creator economy in the sense that they don't pay you to post on LinkedIn in any way. I don't think there is any sort of sponsored type of revenue share there. What are your thoughts on LinkedIn and building a following, building your brand around that?
Yeah, they're starting to do more influencer marketing. They're like a buddy of mine, Brendan Gahan, just started a company called Creator Authority that does LinkedIn influencer marketing, which is fascinating. And LinkedIn itself is leaning into video a lot more. So I think you can see the writing on the wall for where that's going. LinkedIn is just one of those platforms where you have to create like a creator. You have to put your thought leadership out every single day in a way that is digestible and shareable. And I've been posting near daily since 2017. Couple breaks in there, but near daily since 2017. And I'm only at 30,000 followers, but it is by far the most profitable platform I've ever been on because I get 6-figure deals sent to my inbox where people are just like, I've got this budget. I need help. Can you traffic it? Right. So screwed a couple bucks per 1,000 views. I just need to get that one CMO who was, I love your newsletter, Phil. Can you run this budget for me? And then I've made my year.
Yeah, no, totally. It's something that I think a lot of people are shifting away from, especially in the business world, in the agency world, CMOs, marketing leaders, et cetera. It is definitely a place to start building if you want to dive into the creator economy. Phil, this has been a very interesting conversation about how this game works. I know it's very high level and we could dive really deep into a lot of stuff. Maybe we will in a future episode, but where can people learn more about you? Where can people, follow you?
I'm at Phil Ranta on every platform, but LinkedIn is always best. LinkedIn.com/in/Phil Ranta, PhilRanta.
Awesome, Phil. Thank you so much for being on. Thank you for your time. And we'll catch you on LinkedIn.
Appreciate it. Thank you.